Hey yo guys, what's good, what's happening, and what's going on? I guess I don't need the tripod feature on this camera because I gotta head off to the office. Today we will not be doing a Walmart run as per tradition. Anyway, today's video is about a little topic where last Thursday at Martial Arts we had a guy in who was spec ops for the Canadian military, explaining why Canada will become the 51st state. So hopefully I got all my ducks in a row and I get this out properly. I'll probably mess it up somewhere along the line because I'm pretty good at doing that. But we'll see how we do and do how we see. So, where to begin? Well, it all starts back when Trump was first elected. So, when Trump got elected, he got elected on the whole America first, right? USA first. That's who's going to basically, that's his main focus. And that's how it should be for any country. You know, that's how it was supposed to be for Canada. If Pierre Poilievre got in, was Canada first. And, well, he didn't get in. Anyway, so Trump is elected. He wants to make Canada the 51st state. There was a reporter who asked, will you roll the military on Canada? Trump literally said, I won't have to. I'm going to kill them economically. So we thought this whole tariff thing was how he was going to do it, right? We thought by initiating tariffs, cutting off one of our things being the automotive industry, which is huge in Ontario, but our government makes it look like it's not that big of a deal. We thought that was his big economic attack, but it wasn't. She was doing the power merps because there's a bird outside. Not like she could do anything against it. I mentioned on a previous video about that big beautiful bill or one big beautiful bill or whatever. It's like a 1,000-page long bill with a bunch of stuff in it. And I literally just scratched the surface of what that bill is. There's a lot of good stuff in there for the US, like tax-free social security checks, the requirement to work 80 hours a month in order to qualify for Medicaid, which I believe is probably like our OHIP, where it's insurance for the hospitals and all that. But the one thing in there that is going to kick Canada's ass financially is any foreign entity making money from a U.S. corporation, either through, like I talked about the YouTube and Twitch and X, that's like literally a little bit of it. Any investors, let's say I invest in American stocks, all right, and I'm making money off of that. Well, now I am going to be penalized a tax, a U.S. tax, not a Canadian tax. I'm still going to get Canadian taxed, but I'm also going to get U.S. taxed on that for investing in a U.S. company. Now, the main issue there is a lot of our stuff, like our pensions up here, our Canadian pension plan, apparently a lot of it's invested in a U.S. corporation, which is going to economically kill Canada. Now, when we were at Martial Arts, we were talking to a guy about it. I think alive. I can't tell. Pretty clear looking. I think it's a wolf. Chatting with the spec ops guy from the Canadian military, he literally said, he's like, Trump doesn't need to roll the military on us. Because if he did, the fight would last 10 minutes. Because like just the military sitting in Wisconsin, if there is a military there, is enough to take over Canada's military right now, because we have nothing. Like our military is a joke. We know this. We've been fighting the government to rebuild the military forever. Like we got soldiers that are literally buying their own equipment because the equipment they're given is not enough. We know we have no protection. We know that the North is unprotected. We know that literally if Russia were to roll in and the US decided not to help, that fight would just end. We'd be done. You know, we gave away so much military shit to Ukraine that it blows my mind. And like he brought up, he's like, Trump is getting fed up with Ukraine because they're not doing what they need to do. However, Canada can offer Trump the same deal that the Ukraine was going to, where protection for minerals. I'm not sure about that Ukraine deal. It sounded like Trump was backing out of it because Zelensky is a pain in the ass to work with, apparently. Those are his words, not mine. But then recently in the news, Russia ended up airstriking the shit out of the Ukraine. Trump kind of changed his tone on things. So I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, anyway. Literally, we were told the moment the announcement of a recession occurs, that's when we're going to start seeing things change. Now we fast track to what's going on in Canada. So we just had an election. The Liberals won by like a very narrow amount. And if you're following our elections, you probably noticed that they're literally finding new voters everywhere and like ballot boxes that weren't counted, just a whole bunch of discrepancies. And it's under investigation as we speak. Like to this day, there are ridings that are constantly changing because there were polling boxes that weren't counted, that were found and weren't counted. On the inside? That is on the inside. I'm gonna clean my window before we head off. A little bit of homemade window cleaner. Does it work? Yes. Is this brush gross? Yes. Anyway, back on topic. So, like I mentioned, we have an election. We had an election. The Liberals got in for a fourth freaking term. And in my logic, the reason why that happened is because it's the only way for the future plan to occur. And that future plan is for Canada to become the 51st state. See, if Pierre Poilievre got in, his plan to fix Canada may have worked. His plan to also work with Trump would not have worked. See, we all know Mark Carney has investments. We all know a lot of his holdings are in the US. So knowing that, and knowing that he has worked with Trump before, especially with Trump's son-in-law, where Brooksfield Asset Management, basically with the help of Qatar, bailed out Trump's son-in-law in a $1.9 billion investment into some building where he wasn't able to, work with it. He didn't have the money to run the building. He was about to go bankrupt on that deal. Carney assisted with the funding to basically bail the guy out. Now, we still don't know where Carney's holdings are because it hasn't been, 90 days since he was elected. That information should be coming out soon. But we do know that he has investments in oil fields overseas. He has investments in a heat pump company. He has a bunch of known investments, but we don't know the unknown. But we do know what Brooksfield does because that shit's on the books. Carney won based off of one thing: Trump fear. All right. All of Canada was afraid of Trump because Trump's making tariffs. So we're going to put a tariff on the minerals. We're going to put a tariff on the cars. We're going to put a tariff on this. We're going to put a tariff on that. Any cars imported from Canada, tariffed, and so on and so forth. So Carney knew the best political strategy he had was talking tough about Trump. He even said it, and that's what I laughed, is he even said it himself on the podium, that our relations with the US is over. And how can that be? Like, they're our number one trading partner because they're literally our next door neighbor in most parts of the country, separated by a creek. Like, literally, there's just a little bit of waterway between us. You saw it on the Sarnia fishing video. I could see the US from across the lake or across the river. How can our relations with a country that is so close be over? Especially when overseas, they'd rather deal with other countries that are closer to lower exporting and importing costs. We can't end our relations with the US. We all know that. So then, this whole elbows up bullshit starts, and I think that's the dumbest slogan ever, elbows up. It's like in hockey, elbows up is a dirty move. Fight dirty. Well, elbows up was the strat during the whole election. Carney walks away and wins, runs over to the UK trying to get a deal, a trade deal. Ends up Trump already got the trade deal with the UK. Tries to get a trade deal with the EU. No idea what's happening there. And then Carney decides, all right, finally, I'm going to go down to the US and talk to Trump. Well, the funny part about that was Trump was like, I don't even know why he's coming down here. We got nothing to talk about. Like, Trump had no idea why he was coming down there. That meeting, you talk to a liberal about it, they're like, oh, Carney held his ground. Carney did a great job, blah, 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 blah. To me, I saw that as Carney was frustrated because he wasn't used to not being the big man in the room. He looked so upset the way he was rocking back and forth, and he had no control over that entire situation, to the point where he started praising Trump. That whole elbows up to Trump wasn't even there. Like, he started praising the guy, calling him a transformational president and going on and on and on. And it's like, bro, what happened to elbows up? We're done with the US. Like, I don't want to be done with the US. I want things to remain as they were, prosperous for both countries. We supply you guys the minerals, you make the shit, we buy the shit. It was working out fine. I also understand what Trump wants to do, and I wish Canada would as well. bring more things home, bring more business home, make more stuff in Canada. We have the fabrication. Ontario used to be a fabrication hub. That was our main export, fabricated goods. It's what we did. But for some reason, over time, all that shit stopped. We need to bring that back. So yeah, now with this one big bill, what it targets, it'll help the US out to an extent, but it's going to hurt the US as well. Like a lot of people who don't work and were on Medicaid will no longer qualify. I believe, like I said, I believe Medicaid is like your OHIP we have for insurance, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not an American, don't understand how that works. I'm Canadian. We have free healthcare here in Ontario, but it's shit. Like you go to the hospital, you're in there for 13 hours before a doctor even looks at you. 90% of the time, they just send you home, tell you to take Tylenol and come back tomorrow if you don't feel any better, because they just don't care. But yeah, so literally what Spec Ops told me was the moment they mention recession, that Canada is about to go into a deep recession, is the moment that Trump will be the hero to save Canada. There's more to this. There's a lot more to this, but I'm almost at work, guys, so I'm going to talk more about it after work. All right, peace the frig out. Oh, the work shift is over. Holy shit, what a day. So yeah, we were talking about takeover of Canada. See, holy, I thought she was gonna run the friggin' stop sign and just come flying out. Leaving work, I almost hit a guy on a bike because he just like crosses the road. Doesn't even look to see if there's vehicles, zero frigs given. Like, holy, anyway. So, as you may or may not know, we had that election, right? So Carney's our prime minister, and a bunch of provinces are kind of pissed off because he's already mucking around with their plans, like Alberta, for instance. Mark Carney has no plans on building pipelines because that goes against his net zero agenda. Well, how else is Alberta supposed to get their oil to the east and west where they can sell it to foreign countries? If we're cutting deals with the US, we got to get that oil out some way. Well, in Mark Carney's words, we need to leave half the oil in the ground. We shouldn't be taking all the oil. We shouldn't be pumping it. It's pollution. It's carbon emissions, right? Blah, blah, blah. Was a bling bling. So because of that, Alberta's pissed, and I don't blame them because they could be making a lot of bank selling that oil. So they've already put in for a referendum to basically separate from Canada and become a sovereign nation of their own. The nation of Alberta. Now, I could see them becoming the nation of Alberta and then signing on as the 51st state with the US. And then if there's great success with that, I could see Saskatchewan jumping ship too and joining the US. We already know Quebec wants to split because they're sick and tired of Ottawa not listening to them. Ottawa being the capital of Canada, right? They've talked about it numerous times, and I know they tried to separate prior and failed, but after watching what Alberta did, where they passed a bill that reduces the amount of votes needed to form a referendum and separate from 640,000 down to 140,000. That was the new bill. So all it takes is 140,000 yay votes to separate, and they can go ahead and separate. If that were to happen, if a lot of the provinces ended up leaving, well, the rest would follow and either become independent countries or basically share borders with the US and become part of the US. And I have a bad feeling that's the way we're going unless we shape up. Now, a lot of people, even the Liberals, are kind of pissed off at the way Carney's doing things, stating he's not doing things correct and he needs to shape up. Something happened that I came across today. Actually, it was a coworker who talked about it with me. Said, did you hear that the Liberals are not even giving NDP party status? And I'm like, what? He's like, yep, the NDP doesn't have party status anymore because they have less than 12 seats, because the Liberals decided to say, nope, you don't qualify, you're not a party. That's a major problem for the Liberals. Keep in mind, the Liberal in the previous term with Justin Trudeau, the Liberals and the NDP had a coalition, and that's why things were getting passed, because whenever they would do like a vote of no confidence, the Conservatives would put a vote of no confidence, NDP always sided with the Liberals, saying, nope, it's not going to happen, nope, it's not going to happen, nope, it's not going to happen. They had their little coalition going. So that's not going to be a thing anymore. And we already know how Quebec feels about the Liberals. So now the Conservatives will have a fighting chance, where if the Liberals try to pass a bill and the Conservatives vote against it and the Bloc says, you know what, screw you, we're voting against it too, it doesn't happen. This is the difference between Canada's government and the US government. You guys have one president who calls the shots, makes the executive orders, they go to Senate, and then they're voted on yay or nay, and then done deal. In Canada, we have multiple parties involved, where they basically bring up a bill and then it's voted on on in the House, and it goes. You know, for the U.S. to be like Canada, it would have to be a majority, like a majority government. That doesn't happen. You just call the shots and it happens, unless it breaches the public interest. Then there's issues. But when it's a minority government, weird things occur. You can have parties that multiple parties vote against it. It doesn't even see the light of day. So, but this whole separation thing with Alberta, that happens in 2026. That's why I say by the end of 2026, we could all be singing the U.S. national anthem. And it all comes down to whatever goes on with Alberta. Because I'm telling you, if they are able to split, you're going to see provinces dropping off like flies, and either A, becoming independents, or B, joining the U.S. as multiple states, which means they could be adding a lot more stars to that flag, or just one giant maple leaf behind the stars. I don't know. All I know is if that ever happens, I guess I better figure out who the good health insurance company is. I don't know if my company would basically offer some sort of a corporate health insurance, because like I said, up here in Canada, we have well, in Ontario, see the medical system for Canada, everybody's like, oh, you guys get free medical. Well, it is free, but we pay for it through our taxes. That's why we're taxed out the ass. And the problem is we're taxed out the ass, but the people who abuse it are usually the ones who are not taxed out the ass. So the ones that are barely paying into the taxes and getting the most income tax back, that really abuse the medical system up here. And it's kind of annoying, but what can you do, right? What can you do? So now we sit and spin. Now we sit and wait and see what's going to go on. Am I worried about Mark Carney messing around with Canada too much? Hard no. Why? Because he already shot himself in the foot by not giving the NDP party status. Because if you think friggin' the Conservatives are going to let that guy run a train on this country, you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to friggin' fight him tooth and nail. And without their boy Jagmeet Singh there, because he retired, he quit, and the NDP is no longer valid party status, and Quebec themselves is really upset with Ottawa right now, and they're just waiting to see what goes on with Berta, see if actually Berta gets the referendum in, just to break off. If that happens, man, Quebec's going to do the exact same thing that they did in Berta to get their referendum in, to get the frig out of Canada. So it's all just a sitting and waiting game now. Man, dandelions come back fast. Holy shit. I just mowed that lawn and they're already starting to pop back up. Talk about a resilient weed, eh? Freaking dandelions, boys. Got to give them sea suckers credit. Honestly, I think the only benefit of Canada becoming part of the U.S. would mean I wouldn't need a passport to go into the U.S. My identification would already be known on your systems, and I could just cross the border, because there would be no border, because the border would be gone, as we'd all be living in the same damn country. So if I wanted to take vacation, go down and visit Chutch, you know, drive down to Iowa or wherever the frig he is, Ohio, I can't remember now, and go and hang out. I totally could without needing a passport to cross the border. That'd be pretty dope. One thing I can tell you is, unlike my friends, I have a lot of friends that are like stressing over all of this and freaking out and stuff. And I've basically decided not to do that anymore. I was one of them. I was freaking out. Like when Carney won, I was pissed. I was like, are you serious right now? Like, how can we vote this guy in? Like a fourth year of Liberals? Like, because they haven't screwed up the country enough, let's give them another run at it. Same cabinet, different headmaster, you know? Like, let's give him another run at it. And I was really pissed. But then I started thinking, you know, the Conservatives did get 28 more seats than they had prior. So that's good. And on top of that, now finding out that the NDP no longer has party status, that's really good, because that means that coalition will never be formed. And the Bloc Québécois, being the third party in effect, already doesn't really care for Carney if he frigs around. They're just going to call him out on it. They won't form a coalition. They'll vote to the benefit of Quebec, you know? So if there is some sort of a bill that infringes on Quebec's rights, they'll tell them to frig off, and they'll vote against it. And if the Conservatives figure the bill is unfair for people, they'll vote against it. So it might not be so bad the next 4 years. But I have a feeling that there's going to be a vote of no confidence, and we're going to be back in election probably sooner than later. I don't think they'll be in for 4 years. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot sooner than later, especially if Carney keeps friggin' dismissing people the way he does. Like, I don't know if you ever watched him on stage, but somebody will ask him a question and he'll just dismiss them, and then they'll be like, but no, like you said, he'll be like, da 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 da. I know what I said. I know what I said. He'll even tell people to shush. Or he uses this full stop. Like, are you serious, bud? Full stop? Like, go eat a bag of dicks, elbows up. Like, what the frig? Full stop. What are you, military, bud? Full stop. Hey, you're radio operator, bud? Hey, holy friggin' full stop. What a nerd. But no, he'll do that to people. He'll be like, he'll explain a policy, somebody will ask him a question, and he'll be like, this is the policy, this is how it works, full stop. Next question. And it's like, really, bud? Okay, yeah, okay, all right. Tell me you're a dictator without telling me you're a dictator. Mainly a dick who eats taters. But still, just saying. So, I don't know. As far as the U.S. government shit goes, somebody commented that you don't know anything about the U.S. government and how it works. And you're right, I really don't, because I'm Canadian. So I have no reason to understand how the U.S. government really works. From what I gather, it's one party in control. Yeah, the Democrats are in there bitching and moaning, but I thought that was just the people, the Democratic people, the ones who follow the Democratic Party and voted for the Democrats. I didn't think the Democratic Party themselves have much input on any sort of anything going on in the world of the U.S., but I could be wrong. And I don't know, I thought I heard somewhere that the U.S. was pulling out of Ukraine. I know Canada said they can't afford keep funding that war because it's going nowhere fast. And I know the US was supposed to have a deal with Zelensky on mineral rights for the Ukraine and basically in trade for protection. They were going to go over there and mine the resources with US assets, and in turn, if Russia attacked, they would basically defend, because if Russia attacked a mining site that was ran by US people and the US people got hurt, well, that's an attack directly on the US, so they could retaliate without, it being a war thing. But I thought that's what was happening, but it sounds like that they never signed that. I thought they did sign the deal, but I guess they never did, because I heard Trump say that that deal was off. But then, I don't know, I saw another video of Trump saying like he doesn't know what the frig's going on, why Putin's doing what he's doing. I don't know why he's attacking them. Like, I thought we had a ceasefire. So I really don't know what the frig is going on with the Ukraine war. I haven't been following that very much. I come across snippets on YouTube and shorts and all that, and I'm just like, oh yeah, okay. Okay, so that's still a thing. Right on. Not really right on, but like, just when you think it's resolved and it's not resolved, you're like, why the frig hasn't this been resolved yet? What's really going on? But anyway, guys, that's all I got to say about that. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. Do you think the prediction is true? See, the big thing for me about us flopping to the US and becoming part of the US, number one, is like my main thing is the separations, like the referendums. If we start to have referendums, because like Alberta, let's face it, they're the moneymaker up here. They're the oil fields. They're the moneymaker of Canada. Ontario used to be a good moneymaker, but production stopped, right? Automotive plants are shutting down. My personal favorite was the Honda automotive plants. We were supposed to get 3 Honda automotive plants in Ontario, but they ceased construction on it. And of course, people are saying it's because of Trump's tariffs, when in reality, the reason being is because of the declined sales in electric cars. Those 3 Honda plants were to manufacture electric Hondas. And because of the declined sale in electric vehicles, nobody wanting to buy them, Honda went, well, maybe wasting all that money on EV plants is stupid and we're just not going to do it. It had nothing to do with Trump and the automotive tariffs, because it literally had nothing to do with it. All those parts were going to be shipped from Japan to Canada, not even going through the US, would have been unaffected by the tariffs. We would have built the cars up here and sold them to Canadians. And if the US wanted to buy some, well, then they would have paid tariffs on it while they're importing across the border. They would have paid 25% tariff on it the moment it walked across the border, which would have been soaked by the end buyer. Has nothing to do with the tariffs. It has to do with the fact that Honda is not sure if electric cars are the way of the future. Right now, that nobody's certain if electric cars are the way of the future. It could be this new hydrogen technology that Toyota's messing around with. Or we might come up with a new fuel source later on. Maybe they come up with some sort of a cold fusion battery that never runs out. Good for 25 years. Pop it in a car and you're good to go. Get into an accident and you're a mini nuke, whatever. But still, because of that, because Honda's uncertain about the electric car, that's why they're not doing the Honda plants in Canada. And Honda even said that. They never even once mentioned Trump tariffs. They said, due to the future of vehicles, we're not sure if the electric car will be the vehicle of the future, as sales are steadily declining in EV. Therefore, we don't believe that opening these plants now would be a good financial decision. So that's why they've stopped the production on those plants. I know Elon Musk is still pushing the Tesla bit, and Rivian's still pushing their electric cars. I see the Rivian vans all over town with Dragonfly delivering packages and all that shit. But I honestly do not know what the future will bring for vehicles. And I know for the north, an EV is not the way to go. In the summer, they're mint, like beautiful. My buddy has a Tesla Model S, I think it is. Model 3, one of those two anyway. The cheaper one, the more affordable one I should say, because there's nothing cheap about a Tesla, let me tell you. But the more affordable one is the one he has, and in the summer he'll get like 650 kilometers to a charge. But in the winter, it's like 175 because the HVAC system just completely saps the battery. In the summer, he won't use the AC, he'll just roll down the window. Or he'll use the AC because the compressor, like I don't know how the compressor works, but he might use the AC. But he said in the summer, the AC doesn't kill the battery half as bad as the AC, as the heat does in the winter. He said in the winter, it's brutal. And I always thought it was the depolarization of ionization in the lithium polymer batteries that caused it to slow down. Because like you freeze certain lipochemistries and they don't work that well. They deplete really quick. They don't hold a charge. They ground it. They not ground out, but they just destabilize until they're warmed back up and then they're fine. Like the blue GoPro batteries, for instance, you bring them out -20, you got 5 minutes of footage. Where the white GoPro batteries, being phosphorus based, they can give you an hour and 35 minutes in sub-zero temperature and just keep on chalking away, and they don't care. So yeah, but the problem with the phosphorus batteries in a electric car application is you can't pull that much wattage from them as you would need to move a 2,500 pound car or whatever a Tesla Model 3 weighs. You know, you can't draw that much amperage because you'll literally overload the battery, and next thing you know, you're a rolling campfire. That's a bitch and a quarter to put out. So yeah, no bueno. We need new battery technology. Something that can take a charge real fast so you're not sitting at a charging station for like half an hour just to get 85% charge, and something that can handle a heavy discharge, and something with a lot of charging cycles. That's another problem with lithium polymer batteries, is you can only charge them so many times until they start breaking down. You know, you can usually get about 500 to 1,000 charges out of one. Like your cell phone, for instance, they're usually good. They say they're good for about 1,000 charges, and then they start breaking down. They've gotten better through software and all that, but the older batteries were good for about 1,000 charges, and then you would start noticing that you'd be using your phone, it would get down to 80% and then just hard dip down to 40 because one of the cells destabilized and disconnected. So that's basically what we're going to face with these cars unless something is done. So battery tech is something they definitely got to work on now. The Liberal government changed it from 2035 to 2040 for the mandate for everybody to have electric vehicles, probably because they realize that right now in today's day and age, if everybody had an electric vehicle and we all plugged in on Sunday night to charge our vehicles, the grid would be the brightest light show ever on the planet, and Canada would be dark in no time. Obviously, we need some sort of infrastructure upgrade to the electricity grid, not to mention power generation, to keep up with it. I'm sure anybody watching from California, you're probably already aware of this. I heard down there the charging stations aren't always turned on. They cycle them around basically to avoid overloading the grid. So yeah, that's a thing that we got to watch out for. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Personally, I'm just going to sit and wait, carry on with my life, do my thing, and whatever happens, happens. At that point, I'll just do what I normally do. Improvise, adapt, overcome, because it is the way that you have to be. It's not worth it to worry about something that hasn't happened, but it's always good to be prepared for the worst, right? But don't worry about it, because stress will eat you alive. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, click that like button. Any questions, comments, concerns, down below they go. And until next time, guys, live it to win it, and peace the frig out. Sit, stupid, sit. Good dog.